Already more than a week into 2017, did you resolve to save money, maybe even start a nonprofit? Well, City Council Member Laurie A. Cumbo is doing her best to help by convening a 7-part community exchange series, and she's here to give us a preview. Welcome back to BK Live.
Thank you. Happy to be here with both of you.
We're happy to have you always. Laurie, so what led to the selection of the 7 topics you'll be addressing in the Community Exchange Series? Community Exchange Series, that's a tough one.
That's right. There are so many issues that are impacting the community, and there are so many resources that the city government has the ability to provide. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a 7-part series that would allow residents the ability to learn how to navigate starting their own not-for-profit organization. How do you apply for funding to the New York City Council? How can you get a grant if you have a little league, or if you have an art program that you want to bring, or you have a year-round festival that you've been shelling out your own money to do every year? This is going to teach you how do you start your own not-for-profit and how do you get funding so that you can get on that track to be able to provide for your community in a way that also has city support. But it's also a great way and an opportunity, particularly in the Crown Heights area, where there's a massive amount of gentrification going on and an incredible amount of unfortunate displacement that's happening. We want to be able to prepare residents so that they can apply for the affordable housing lotteries, so that they can understand what the area median income actually is, and how do they as a family increase their chances of being accepted into the affordable housing lotteries, but also how do we as a community begin to change a lot of these policies that are ultimately gentrifying our communities and keeping a lot of people from coming into the community that would be able to afford to live there previously can no longer do so now.
So, Doctor, I'm going to ask you to bring back the series. You've got me programmed for the next 3 months here. You've got everything from learning what about affordable housing and how to apply to starting your own nonprofit. This is sort of like the starter school for local heroes that you've got going on here. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the most acute problem in the 35th before we get into the housing thing as it relates to affordability and just staying where you are if you've already made it to the neighborhood?
Well, one of the great challenges that we have, if we just talk about area median income, is when you look at what the area median income is for the entire city of New York, it also includes counties such as Westchester that are very affluent into our into the average median income. So the challenge that we have, let's say in 2017, the average area median income is about $90,000 for a family of 4. So when people think family of 4, they're thinking all adults, but that includes children, that includes your entire household, right? So if we're looking at affordable, and that being $90,000 for a family of 4, that's not really very realistic for the exact community of Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. For a single person, the area median income is about $60,000 for a single person. So if you just look at single person, the average staffer in the New York City Council makes between $40,000 and $50,000. So even your city workers
can't afford to live
in the communities that they serve. How problematic is that for us when our own employees can't even afford to live in their city? So this is really a discussion about where you fit into that, but also how we can change that. You know, if we're looking at HUD right now, that's going to be led by Dr. Ben Carson, whose experience, to the best of my knowledge, is that he may be a homeowner, but other than that, not having any real substantive knowledge about real housing issues. And so that's why I really encourage people, when you vote, it's important, because these things such as affordability are critical. And when we look at our minimum wage workers, there is very little housing available for minimum wage workers in New York City. Because if we're talking about an individual which is affordable at $60,000, we know that previously and currently, someone making $7.25 an hour, whose annual income might range between $15,000 and $20,000 a year, cannot afford to live in New York City, which means that they have to live in shelter ultimately.
A second ago, you mentioned Ben Carson, who doesn't have a lot of experience running anything urban, but we do know some folks who are particularly well suited to the challenge of helping folks out.
And true to its title, the Community Exchange Series taps taps experts from the community to help folks in the community. Stephanie Blue has earned that street cred as the marketing director at IMPACCT Brooklyn, the former Pratt Area Community Council, advocating for Brooklynites for over 5 decades. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into this AMI thing. Can you tell us about that? What is it?
Well, they're the area median incomes that are handed down from HUD. They change from year to year. We are looking for 2017 median incomes to be passed out very shortly. More than likely, they won't change from where they currently are. They do look at the incomes that are coming into the neighborhoods, but like Council Member said, it's not the people who were always in the community incomes that we are looking at currently, and it's very unfortunate for those that are currently residing in the neighborhoods that the developments are going up, because they won't necessarily qualify for a lot of the developments that are currently going up. The numbers that you use are very true. However, we even see them on a deeper skewed level, where there are individuals with just Social Security, and they want to make the change. They want to be able to qualify, and however, without having a third-party subsidy that will assist them in paying these rents, they won't.
So on the theme of Councilmember Cumbo's argument, Ben Carson is going to be leading HUD. Should we start sending emails and tweeting him to get Westchester out of the mix for the way that we calculate numbers here?
That may be the way to go.
Why is that still in there?
We also have, our organizing department, who is very active and proactive in some of the activism when it comes to helping change some of the laws. And it calls for involvement on every level, from people from the community, whether it's rent stabilization. It would also help with the area median incomes, just to get legislators to understand the incomes that are currently still in the community and how it is not being effective for everyone.
Does it help us in any way to still have those counties factored into our AMIs?
No, not at all.
It doesn't help us, everyday, day-to-day people. But it certainly does help those who are landlords and developers and those who are wealthier. It certainly assists them. But for the average New Yorker, this is really, and I think that part of it is that we keep our fights very local. This is a fight that we need to take on the federal level. In addition to that, we also have to change how we look at the lotteries in terms of preferences. So very often, a very limited preference can go to the existing community, maybe only 25%. But we need to change those preferences, because when you're doing development in an area, it's critical that the existing residents and their children, as well as their grandparents, that everybody has an opportunity to live in the same nucleus of that community. Currently, a senior wanting to live and remain in their community cannot do so at these AMIs. And if you have children who would want to live close to their parents or live in the neighborhood that they grew up in, they also see that challenge. So we've been in a state of emergency in terms of trying to save people from being evicted, to stop our rent laws from being rolled back, and those sorts of things. But I think in this administration, what we need to do is to take this conversation on a federal level, and to make that, because if we never get to the source of where the issue is, we're going to continue to be putting out fires in our local communities to stop people.
We're going to advocate federally, but we're going to continue to support locally.
Definitely.
I know IMPACCT has home ownership series for new homeowners starting tomorrow tomorrow night, and it continues all the time. And how to get your money up in 2017. You guys have personal finance. So tell us how we can get in touch with you before we see you tomorrow night at Medgar, but how can folks get involved?
Our main office is located at 1000 Dean Street, and we have also satellite office where we wanted to give that street presence. So on Franklin and Fulton, 1224 Fulton, we have our office that will help individuals with tenant advocacy, community advocacy, displacement, harassment against landlords. Know what your rents are, and this is where you can go to get that help. We will help you get a rent printout of what your current rent is, so they won't just jack up your rent arbitrarily. know what status you have. Do you have succession rights? Because they're not giving those rights to some of the tenants if my daughter grew up with me or if my grandchild grew up. And you do have the right where you can continue to live in that apartment. Know what your rights are with your preferential rents. And again, at our organizing department, you can get all of that information.
All right. We'll be in touch. We got your email address, we got the Twitter, and we'll see you tomorrow at Medgar Evers College from 6:30 to 8:30. Learn and hear more about AMI.
Affordable housing, how to correctly fill out an apartment, the set-asides, the community preferences. There's also a homeless preference now. And disabled preference. And these are all tips and tidbits how to correctly navigate through the lottery.
Phenomenal. Tomorrow night, Medgar Evers College, 6:30 to 8:30. Find yourself there. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.